Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Veryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavit Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So last class we had seen the summary of chapter 1 of the Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 1 of the Bhagavad Gita is called as Arjuna Vishada Yoga, the yoga of Arjuna's despondency. Arjuna's mind was stressed, and that's what the chapter talks about. When a person is overpowered by his or her own emotions, he or she cannot think properly. When you cannot think properly, you cannot act properly. And when you don't act properly, you will not achieve the results as expected, as you wished. And since you don't achieve what you wanted to achieve, that will give you more agitations. So you will fall into a vicious cycle. It's sort of a spiral. Because your emotions have overpowered you, you cannot think. And since you cannot think properly, you will not be able to act properly. If you don't act properly, you will not get the results. When you don't get the results, you will be agitated more. So this continues. So that's why it becomes extremely important to learn to control, manage and direct our emotions. It's very, very important. When we say a human being should have emotions, if you do not have emotions, you would be equated to a plant or a piece of wood. Strictly speaking, even plants have rudimentary emotions. So if you don't have emotions, it's like being a piece of wood. If you have emotions and overpowered by emotions, victimized by emotions, then you would be like an animal. You should have emotions and keep the emotions under control. In the case of animals, it's only a temporary effect, but in the case of a human being, it can continue for long. So therefore, it's extremely important for a human being to learn to manage, control and direct the emotions. And Arjuna succumbed to his own emotions and he said, I will not fight. He became absolutely incapacitated to fight. Physically became incapacitated to fight. That's what happens when you are stressed. You completely become incapacitated to act. So he said, I will not fight. To support his stance, he was giving all kinds of reasons and logic, which strictly speaking are not any logical at all. So when he kept quiet, Shri Krishna was waiting for that only, right? When a person is going on talking, how can he say anything, It is not going to enter that person. So only when the person has become open, can there be any communication. So Shri Krishna was just waiting, hoping that Arjuna will at least become quiet. So when he became quiet, then he says something. In fact, he is not giving the knowledge. As a friend, as a charioteer, he wants to give his thoughts, what does he believe in that context to Arjuna, right? So the second chapter of the Gita is called as Sankhya Yoga, the yoga of knowledge. Now, as I told you before, it is not as though on the battlefield they are saying, okay, now first chapter is over, now let's start second chapter. It's not like that, right? Sage Vyasa, with his poetic license, is telling, till here this thought flow, for that we are giving this name. From now on this thought flow continues, so for that we are giving this title. So the second chapter is entitled as Sankhya Yoga, the yoga of knowledge. When a person is lost in darkness, the solution for darkness is light. So when a person is suffering because of ignorance, the solution is knowledge. But knowledge is never given, it is taken. Knowledge is never given, it is taken. Now Arjuna is not taking the knowledge. So Shri Krishna cannot start giving the knowledge. Shri Krishna knows what the problem is, yet he cannot start giving the knowledge. He can only say whether he agrees with him or he disagrees with him in the beginning, isn't it? That's all he can say. So this chapter has about 72 shlokas. In fact, chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita and chapter 18 of the Bhagavad Gita, which has 78 shlokas. So in chapter 2 it is 72, in chapter 18 it is 78. Both put together is 150 shlokas. Out of 701 shlokas, 150 shlokas is chapter 2 and chapter 18. Right? In fact, the way the knowledge is presented here is that in the second chapter, the entire knowledge is given. Right? The entire knowledge is presented in a particular format, the second chapter. Then from third chapter to 17th chapter, it is elaborated. Then in the 18th chapter, again the entire knowledge is given in a particular format. It's like news reading. In the beginning, they give headlines and then elaborate news and then again headlines. Isn't it? It's a very interesting way of communicating. First, give the points briefly, then explain them in detail, then in the end sum it up. In fact, when we do seminars also, a lot of people in the end we put a slide, that summing up of what we discussed, what they call as takeaway. People look for the takeaway, like Swiggy, Now we have this Swiggy, So like that, everybody is looking for the takeaway, take home. Okay, all this is fine, you spoke for a day, we heard you. In the end, what kind of takeaway? Just give few points, So I'll remember that. From that, they will probably be able to bring out whatever they heard in the class, So in the end, again summing it up. So this is what Shri Krishna does here, right? Sage Vyasa presents it nicely in that format. Headlines, elaborate news, headlines. Whatever knowledge he wants to give, he gives in the second chapter, explains it in detail in the 3rd to 17th chapter, then 18th chapter again, summary. Okay? So now, in this 72 shlokas of this chapter 2, again is subdivided into topics by my Guru, Swami Parthasarathi, my Guru, into 6 topics, right? He's divided that into 6 topics. And so the first topic from,
Yes.
yeah, thank you. The first topic from verse 1 to 10 talks about Arjuna's despondent condition. In the sense, he sat down saying, I will not fight. And that condition is continuing, which is spoken about from verse 1 to 10. And then verse 11 onwards, the actual Gita starts. The actual Bhagavad Gita starts from chapter 2, verse 11. So 11 to 30 here talks about the indestructibility of the embodied, indestructibility of the self, the Atma within. So, in this portion, he gives what is called as Atma Anatma Viveka. Atma, the real self. Anatma means anything other than that. The spiritual and the material, right? Every human being is a combination of spirit and matter. The material components called the body, mind, intellect, enlivened by the spirit called the Atma, right? So, he gives beautiful analysis from verse 11 to 30, and this is called indestructibility of the embodied. After having gained this knowledge about oneself, when one is playing this role as Jiva in this world, as a limited self in this world called Jivatma, you have to do your duty. Nobody is exempted from that. That's why we keep saying Bhagavad Gita emphasizes on doing action and doing your duty. But a lot of people think I should study Bhagavad Gita only after I have retired. Even in our class, I don't know how many of you are following Gita after you retired, which is okay, fine. But Bhagavad Gita is talking about you should act, how to act. In fact, the third chapter is what? It talks about the importance of action. It's called Karma Yoga, right? The science of yoga, science of action. So, why you should act, the necessity to act, then how you should act, and what are the obstacles you will face while acting, how to overcome those obstacles. This is the third chapter. Okay, it gives the complete blueprint of right action. How can you study what said in the third chapter, how to act after you've retired? Even then you are acting little bit here and there. For that it may be useful, but it is better you learn before you start plunging to live your life. You should learn these things when you are a student, isn't it? So, this topic 31 to 40 is what? Your duty to act. You have a duty to act. So, Shri Krishna talks to Arjuna, you as a Kshatriya have to fight this war. So, each one has to do their actions according to their nature, their obligation. But what happens? The mind, instead of looking at it from the obligation point of view, it starts thinking about desires. I've gone to school, I've gone to colleges, universities, I've got master's degree, PhD maybe, I don't know. Whatever I've got, with all that information, I would like to earn some money and fulfill my desires. Per se, what is wrong? So, what happens is, instead of fixing a goal and using our intelligence to achieve that goal, and whatever comes out of it, instead of fulfilling our desires, we will be directly employing those intelligence and our physical energy and everything to fulfill our desires. Okay. So, the fourth topic, 41 to 44, talks about desire-ridden actions. How our actions today are all predominantly propelled by desires, nothing else. If at all we study Vedas, it's because, if you do this puja, you can fulfill this desire. You want wealth, you worship this devata. You want power, you worship that devata. You want putra bhagyam, you worship this devata. So, there are so many things like that. So, people are interested in that. So, they are interested more in Vedas than Vedanta. If I come to Vedanta, These fellows will say, nothing wrong with the world, only everything wrong with you, you correct yourself. Chhod do yaar, let me, go to Vedas. So it will tell me this Devata is there, you do this puja, you do chant these mantras, you do certain things like this for a few days and follow all this, then you will get the benefit. That's all I want. So in modern context, what you need to understand is, everybody is only employing their intelligence, emotional resources and the physical energy and everything to just fulfill their desires. Mahatma Gandhi ji says, find the purpose, means will follow. The whole life is going in just searching the means. You have to find a purpose, then the means will follow. So we don't understand. We put the cart before the horse. The horse should be there pulling the cart. We put the cart before the horse. We start getting more worried about the means, Dogs on the road, if you see, I'm not talking about the pet dogs. The dogs, stray dogs on the road, they are getting their food somehow, right? They are all being well fed, taken care of. So, it's all desire-ridden actions that we are all doing, constantly. So, that's what he talks about from 41 to 44. And then 45 to 53, which is where that famous shloka comes, 47th shloka, karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, ma karma phala yeturboho mate sangostva karmani. So that he talks from 45 to 53, uske beech mein 47, he's talking about that, right? So that topic, 45 to 53, is desireless actions lead to self-realization. To know your true nature, to know your full potential, right? So if you are just functioning to merely fulfill your desires, you would be functioning at the surface level. Whereas if you understand life, then you would understand that I need to function desirelessly. Desirelessly in the sense, for a higher purpose, right? Not for just me, right? So desireless actions lead to self-realization, to know thy full potential, to know thyself. That is 45 to 53. So either till 53, Shri Krishna has given what he wants to give. Strictly speaking, the chapter should be over. But Arjuna, having heard Shri Krishna, he now gets interested to know, what is this self-realized person like? He wants to know. You said desireless actions will lead us to self-realization. If that is so, what is that state of self-realization? What he calls as Sthita Prajna. I told you, Jnaha means one who knows. Prajnaha means one who knows well. Sthita Prajna or Sthira Prajna means one who knows well steadily at all times. Right? So, Arjuna is asking, kindly give me the profile of a perfect human being. Right? How does he walk? How does he talk? How does he sit? All that he is asking. Give me the description of an enlightened soul. That is the topic 54 to 72. Description of an enlightened soul or profile of a perfect human being. What is that state of a person who's reached self-realization? I would like to know that. So beautifully, this question is asked by Arjuna in the 54th shloka. So Shri Krishna from verse 55 to 72, 18 shlokas, beautifully he paints the picture of a perfect human being. So when we study all these things, we can compare ourselves and contrast ourselves with this, and then we understand that what is that state which is being spoken in the scriptures and where am I today? How am I going to put in efforts to bridge this gap? So there is some measuring point, for me to see. A scale is there. Okay, I have to move in this direction. There's a long distance to cover, right? So if I have to cover a long distance, instead of worrying about how long the distance is, I'll say, how am I going to cover the next mile, next mile, next mile, next mile, right? So the goal, and then short term goals, then start focusing on the immediate good, right? Then I start functioning. Then in the third chapter onwards, he explains how you can do the action, etc., etc. So this is chapter 2 topics. 6 topics are there. So the first topic is Arjuna's despondent condition. So if you remember, Dhritarashtra, the blind king, is talking to Sanjaya, the charioteer, asking him, tell me what happened on the battlefield between my children and Pandu's children. Isn't it? That's the first verse. And then Duryodhana went and spoke to, what is his name? His guru, Dronacharya. And then Bhishma Pitamaha blew the conch. And then Arjuna said, I would like to see you all have come to fight. Then Shri Krishna takes the chariot and places in between both the armies. And then he succumbed to his emotions. And then he spoke, justifying his stance. And then finally, he collapsed, sitting down, saying, I will not fight. So now Sanjaya is saying to Dhritarashtra. So he says, what happened? Now, to a person who was so distressed, to him who was thus overcome with pity, weakness of emotion, whose eyes were filled with tears, who was agitated and despondent, Madhusudana, meaning Shri Krishna, killer of demon, Madhu, the sweet ego. The Lord, Bhagavan, destroys ego, egocentric desires and egoistic attitude. So Madhusudana spoke these words. Shri Krishna spoke these words. What did he say? Now, as I told you, now Shri Krishna has not yet started the Bhagavad Gita. Why? Knowledge is never given, it is taken. Arjuna has not yet become a Shishya, so Shri Krishna cannot start giving the knowledge. But at the same time, like I told you, he can express whether he is in agreement with Arjuna or not. Correct or not? As a friend and as a charioteer, he can do that. And he is doing that. And he is doing that very powerfully, strongly. He is putting forth his viewpoint. And these are very famous shlokas. He is whipping up Arjuna with powerful words. So, second shloka, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Kutastva Kashmalamidam, Vishame Samupastitam, Anarya Jushtam, Ashwargyam, Akirtikaram Arjuna. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha means Shri Krishna said to Arjuna. Sanjaya is telling Dhritarashtra to Arjuna, who was completely stressed and who sat down saying, I will not fight. Shri Krishna spoke. What did he say? He didn't say, Beta, I understand. A tough situation hai, aisa hota hai, you have to understand. It's okay. Chalo, aaj hum ghar jayenge, thoda chai vai pee ke, piche baad mein aayenge. He's not talking all that. He's putting it straight to Arjuna. He says, Kutastva Kashmalamidam, Vishame Samupastitam. Hare man, how did you come to this state of dejection in a crisis? See, when the situation is tough, you got to be alert. As a leader, now recently, FIFA World Cup happened, right? Football, soccer World Cup happened. In the finals, I don't know how many of you saw it. I was watching it. The finals, it went to penalty shootout, right? And who are the main players in France and Argentina? For France, it is Mbappe. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Mbappe. He's the main player for France, right? And for Argentina, Messi, right? And when the penalty shootout started, who started for France and Argentina? Mbappe and Messi. And both of them scored. They might have missed it also. That's okay. That happens to anybody. Can happen to anybody. But as a leader, you got to set the standard. You understand? You got to first go and inspire. And you are saying, okay, you go. And then I'll go, if possible, I'll go, otherwise you go. What kind of a leader are you? Correct? So you got to go and face it. Arjuna is playing, he's like Messi there. He's like Mbappe there. Drishtadyumna could be the, what do you call, the commander-in-chief of Pandava army. But Mbappe of Pandavas is Arjuna. Messi of Pandavas is Arjuna. And he is saying, I cannot fight, all this is talking like this. This is a situation. So Shri Krishna is saying, Kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samupastitam. You are sitting overpowered by emotions in a crisis, man. In a crisis when you are supposed to be alert and awake and wake up and, see what to be done objectively. You are sitting and crying. Kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samupastitam. And another thing I wanted to say here. So, one is you got to face the challenge, go and take it first and inspire the lot as a leader. Other is, when the house is on fire, you got to be helping everyone to escape, and if you can escape, you escape at the end. Otherwise, you die there. In that movie, Titanic, the captain of the ship in the beginning says, this ship will never sink. He says that. This ship will never sink. But in its very first voyage, it sinks. Right? And then they show he makes as many people as possible to escape. And then finally, he drowns. Am I right? Now, if he could have escaped, he could have escaped, but because he could not, he drowned, whatever. He was not the first fellow to escape. That is not the character of a leader. Right? So that's what Arjuna is being told by Shri Krishna. Kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samupastitam anarya jushtam. Aryan means straightforward person, upright person, who will not talk teda meda. Some people when they say yes, it means no. Some people when they say no means it's yes. Now, why you have to say yes when you don't want to do it? All teda, nothing straight. Pakka, zarur aayenge. I took this janma only for your sake. They'll talk like that. But they will not turn up. So he's telling Arjuna, what kind of a fellow are you, man? Anarya jushtam, unworthy of an Aryan. Aswargyam means you will not get swarga, heaven. Means you will not be peaceful. You cannot be happy. Heaven and earth are not, heaven is not a geographical place, You talk about heaven and hell, not earth, sorry. Heaven and hell, they are not geographical place. A state of mind. John Milton says, mind in its own place can make a hell out of a heaven or heaven out of hell. So he is saying, this will not give you heaven, man. You will not attain heaven. Attaining neither heaven, aswargyam, akirtikaram. It will not give you fame also. People will not say, poor Arjuna, he didn't want to fight and kill his guru and great grandfather, therefore he withdrew. What a nice fellow. They are not going to talk like that. They are going to say that fellow, stupid fellow, he became so weak, he wanted to run away. Wouldn't they talk about you like that? So, Shri Krishna is stinging Arjuna. He says, Kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samupastitam anarya jushtam ashvargyam akirtikaram Arjuna. What are you doing? And then he goes on. He says, Klaibyam asmagama partanaitadvayupapadyate shudram hridaya daurbalyam tyaktotishta parantapa. Powerful words, stinging words. Yield not to unmanliness. Shri Krishna is telling Arjuna, don't give in to pusillanimity. Yield not to unmanliness. You are behaving neither like a man nor like a woman, he says. Very powerful to tell a Kshatriya, he'll take a sword and cut you. This is not something that he can easily take. So Shri Krishna wants to sting him, stir up his emotions and make him, slowly come out of this situation that he's fallen into. So he says, yield not to unmanliness, O Partha. It does not befit you. You're a leader, man. And he says, casting off this mean weakness of the heart. Arise, O Parantapa. Parantapa means scorcher of foes. These are different names of Arjuna. See, Arjuna and Shri Krishna, when they are talking to each other in this Bhagavad Gita, they use lot of names to address each other. That shows a lot of love between them, So, Parantapa, you're a scorcher of foes, man. Enemies get scared of you. Right? So, you are now crying like this, sitting and crying. Casting off this mean weakness of heart. Arise. Wake up, don't fall. So what is Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita is the knowledge given to a person who had fallen, but that knowledge made him completely wake up and do his duty perfectly well. We are not in that condition, we are not fallen fully, right? So it should do much more good to us, right? It's easier relatively for us to understand and follow. So now, when Shri Krishna said this, now Arjuna is now coming to the point. He is now very clearly telling Shri Krishna what his actual problem is in verse 4 and 5. He says, better it is to live on alms in this world than to slay the most noble teachers. But by slaying them, all my enjoyments of wealth and desires even here will be stained. How can I fight against Bhishma, Drona? They're all worthy of worship. So it's better to live on alms, beg and live, than to kill these noble people. Now, when you hear this particular sentence alone, it sounds like Arjuna is a very evolved, unattached, detached, renunciate kind of a person, sannyasi. Because that's what the sannyasi does, right? Like Lord Buddha, as Siddhartha, he was the prince, right? And then he renounced everything and became Gautam Buddha. He was begging on the streets of his own kingdom, right? That's a state of maturity. He used the word begging, but he was not begging. So it's bhiksha, it's something else, it's not begging. So, better indeed, he says, is to live on alms in this world than to slay the most noble teachers. Per se, if you take that statement, it's a fabulous statement. Oh, wow. My God, Arjuna, you evolved so much, man. Yes, right, absolutely. You give up and leave. But immediately, see, he exposes himself. But by slaying them, all my enjoyments of wealth and desires even here will be stained with blood. What does it mean? That means he's still not gotten out of his enjoyments, his desires. To achieve the result of my desire, the fruit of my desire, there are certain obstacles. I am finding it difficult to fight with those obstacles, remove them. Therefore, I am talking like this. If the obstacles are removed, then I am interested in the object of the desire. Which means what? I am still not Siddhartha. Supposing you and me decided to walk with Siddhartha, let's say supposing we were also his friends. When Siddhartha walked, we also walked away. He had a big empire, but we may be just maybe 1/10 or maybe 1/100th of wealth we may have. And we walk, but we will not be able to walk because we have not risen above it. isn't it? You will come back. So that's what Arjuna is saying. But by slaying them, all my enjoyments of wealth, after killing them, and my desires, even if it is fulfilled, it will be stained with blood. So I don't want pap. That's all he's saying. He is not saying I'm not interested in the world. I'm not interested in the world. I want Gyan. I want Brahma Jnanam. Therefore, please teach me all that. That is not what he's saying. Right? So, which means what? He is interested in the world, which is nothing wrong. Dharmically, you can enjoy. Right? So, he is saying, what can I do now? Right? If I fulfill my desire, it will be stained with the blood of these good people. What do I do? So he is asking in 6th verse, he says, nor do we know which is better for us, that we should conquer them or they should conquer us. The very sons of Dhritarashtra, whom having slain, we do not wish to live stand facing here, stand facing us. Meaning what? I do not want to kill them. One part of me says kill them, other part of me says don't do that. I'm confused, he says. I'm confused. See, in our system, what they have done beautifully is, they divided life of a human being. Let's say 100 years a human being lives. They divided the life of a human being into four stages. 4 parts or 4 stages. Stage 1, approximately 25 years, manlo. Approximately 25 years, each stage. So from first 25 years, you are a student, you are in the bachelor student stage called Brahmacharya, right? That is the first 25 years. Now, that time, you can live with the support of the parents, society, etc. Correct or not? Now, once you have educated yourself, once you have strengthened yourself, now you are supposed to contribute. And contribute for the society, for the larger purpose, with your intelligence, and also simultaneously fulfill your desires and rise above your desires. Correct? So, after about 25 years of doing this, next stage called Grahastha. So, Grahastha cannot live with the support of the society. He should be supporting the society. He should be supporting the family. Correct? But when he lives for about approximately 25, anywhere between 25 to 35 years, let's say, 60 years, let's say somebody retires. So, up to that time, you are contributing. Slowly what happens is, your mind also matures above the worldly desires and everything, and your body also having, slowly aged. Slowly your contributions may reduce. Then you go to the next stage called Vanaprastha. For next 25 years, you lead a simple life, right? And then you may go into deeper reflections on higher aspects of life called sannyas. Vanaprastha means a forest dwelling. Forest dwelling means what? A secluded, simple living. And then sannyasi, taking a renunciate kind of a living. Basically, all these are the last 2 stages. Vanaprastha and sannyas are simple living, high thoughts. Not simple living, gossiping about the world and complaining about the youngsters. आजकल इस ज़माने में youngsters को कुछ पता नहीं चलता है, going on complaining, taking out all your frustrations. That is not what you are supposed to be doing. They have their life, let them live. You now start living your life. You understand? You start living, going towards the higher aspects of life. And now by that time, if you have produced children, now the children would be educated by that time, right? Because 25, 30 years you've been contributing, you would also support your family, and that children would have grown up. Now they will be supporting the country, the family, etc. So the system runs nicely. It's a beautiful concept. So the Brahmacharya, Vanaprastha and Sannyasi, all these three are maintained by whom? Grahastha. Correct? Maintained by Grahasthas. So in today's world, somebody was talking to me, especially in certain countries this is happening. The youngsters do not want to get married, even if they get married or not, they do not want to have children. Right? So what happens is, they are going on contributing, let's say after some time when they become old and they are not able to contribute, or they are not able to contribute as they were contributing before, they need pension to survive, social security and pension. From which money they will get the social security? The other group that is coming up, the youngsters, they would be working and taking care of them, no? So they are facing these kind of issues, right? So they had this system here in India. So you can live on alms as a bachelor or as Vanaprastha and Sannyasi, but not as Grahastha. And Arjuna as a Grahastha. Right? From that angle also, he is not supposed to live on alms. Correct or not? From that angle, he is not supposed to live on alms. Then, another angle, if you look at from his duty point of view, from his nature point of view, he is a Kshatriya. The nature of a soldier, warrior, administrator, ruler, king, leader. That is Arjuna. Right? So, if you imagine a wheel, the wheel has many spokes. And each and every spoke has its role to play. Isn't it? So, Arjuna is a spoke in the entire system as a Kshatriya. And what is the duty of a Kshatriya? When there is problem for dharma, welfare of the total, the Kshatriya should take the right decision and do the right thing, and even if it means to fight to protect dharma, he is supposed to do that. And even if it is your own kith and kin who is against you, you got to fight. Correct? This Arjuna knows, but is not able to do it. Right? So is this confusion. I know I cannot be living on alms, especially when I have not matured and become Vanaprastha or Sannyasi. Right? And if I don't live on alms, and I'll have to fight. If I fight, I'll have to kill these people. They are very near and dear to me. That is also not correct. This is also not correct. I'm confused, he says. That is his problem. He's totally confused. He says, my choices are between the devil and deep sea. This way if I go, I know it's wrong. If I do this, then I'm confused whether killing noble people is right. What am I supposed to do? I'm confused. I need clarity. He is now admitting, he is understanding that he is confused. First time he is admitting. Nor do we know. Do we know means I don't know. Which is best for us? Whether it is correct to fight or leave, this is what my confusion is. Like, Hamlet says, to be or not to be? That is the question. Then he surrenders to Shri Krishna. Next shloka, verse number 7, he becomes the student, disciple. Karpanya dosha upahata swabhavaha prichamitvam dharma sammuda chetaha yashreyasya nishchitam bruhitan me sishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. Beautiful shloka. He says, my nature, my swabhava, karpanya dosha, upahata swabhava. My nature has been overpowered by the taint of pity, this weakness called pity. Weak emotion has overpowered me. So, my nature is overpowered by the taint of pity. Prichami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha. I am asking you, prichami. I am asking you, prichami tvam. What? Dharma sammuda chetaha. I am confused about what is dharma in the context. With my mind confused as to what is duty, I ask thee. Right? Prichami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha. Yashreyasya nishchitam bruhi tanme. Tell me decisively which is good for me. Shreya means what is good. The opposite of it is preya, which means what is pleasant. What is good and what is pleasant. And mostly what we ask, what is pleasant, not what is good. Isn't it? Mostly what we ask, what is pleasant, not what is good. So, but Arjuna here is saying, I want what is good for me, Shreya. Tell me decisively what is good for me. See, Arjuna is a soldier who's been used to taking order. Clearly tell me what is right, I will go and do that. Analyze and explain to me, he said. Prichami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha yashreyasya nishchitam bruhi tanme. Tell me decisively without confusing me what I should do, what decision I should take and plunge and do. What am I supposed to do? That is his question. Why should you tell me? Sishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. I am completely surrendering to you. Instruct me who has taken refuge in thee. I am thy disciple. Sishyaha. See, first Arjuna has become disciple. Then only Shri Krishna becomes the guru. In our case, straight away we will start giving lecture. Especially to our kids. When I say kids, grown up children. They are not children anymore. At 20, 25, and we are going on giving advice, unsolicited advices. They are not asking you anything. They don't want anything from you. Why are you going on giving? In fact, when you give without asked, they are not listening to you. They don't want. They start turning that side. And another thing, they'll see whether you are living that what you are giving advice. Are you living that? And most of the time, you may not be. They say, what nonsense is this? Right? So, first here Arjuna very clearly says, I am thy disciple. Sishyas teham. Shadimam tvam prapannam. Instruct me who has taken refuge in thee. Means what? I am now completely open. I am ready to listen. Jesus Christ also says, don't cast pearls before swine. So, Shri Krishna never said anything till now. He only said, I don't agree with you. But that seemed to have worked. So then he is agreeing now that yes, I am confused. Therefore, I need to know. See, in Tamil we have a text called, scripture called Tirukkural. It's one of the fascinating texts, In that, Thiruvalluvar says, Enni tuniga karumam tuninda pin ennuvam enbadu idukku. Idukku. So, you got to think and plunge into action. Don't say, I will do and then think. This is what most of us are doing actually. You should think and then plunge. Not plunge and then say, I will think later on. You can't do that. Right? That is stupidity, madness. That is deadly also. So, here he says, I would like to first gain the knowledge before I do the action. I want to be clear in my head. So then I can fight with full conviction. Then I will be doing the action as a complete person. Or else one aspect of me will be pulling me down, other aspect will be doing. This is what is happening to most of us now. Who doesn't want to become rich? If I ask, would you like to become a multi-billionaire? Definitely, sir. Whether multi-billionaire or not, at least multi-millionaire I should want to become. Isn't it? Anybody will say that, mostly. But deep inside, they don't believe that they can become multi-millionaires. One side you will start putting in actions, efforts to achieve that goal. On the other side, you don't believe that you can achieve it. Luck भी है. To protect themselves, you know what? The mindset which is negative, it puts justifications before. Just in case I fail, I can use those justifications, you see. क्या यार, supposing you are into cricket, right? You want to become a cricketer and you're aspiring it. You know, all politics, while it may be to some extent may be true here and there, but you politics पहला ही बोल देता है politics. And you know, I come from this particular background. When I was very young, you know, I had this problem that is not allowing me to be little more competent. Something or the other, they already put these reasons. वो पूरा तैयार करके he will go to put in efforts. Which means what? Deep inside he is thinking, just in case I fail. So he is not even fully there. You understand? It's like one half is wanting, the other half is saying you will not be able to achieve. How can you achieve? You are a split personality. You got to be a complete whole personality, WHOLE, not HOLE. Now there is HOLE. Complete personality. So Arjuna was HOLE. Then when he listens to Shri Krishna, he will become WHOLE. This knowledge can make you whole. Right? So, he's telling, I am thy disciple, I am now fully open, I am ready to listen. I don't know. And I would like to know. So, please tell me what is good for me. So that I can become an integrated person, so that I can become a complete personality and do what I am doing with full conviction. Right? So that is what he is asking Shri Krishna here. I would like to know. Then he says, I don't think so. Even if you promise me the wealth of the entire universe, unrivaled kingdom on earth, lordship over the heavens, this, that, everything, whatever you may give externally, I don't think so my stress will be solved. My stress will be solved only if you give you gyan. Whatever I may achieve, I cannot become stress-free. That's what he says. I do not see that which can, relieve me from the grief which is drying up my senses, even on obtaining prosperous and unrivaled kingdom on earth and lordship over the gods. So I don't think so. All these, supposing he says, beta ye karo, incentives, I'll make you the head of this department. Okay, forget head of the managing director. No. Chairman. No. Chairman of group companies. No. Nothing will make me stress free. I want clear-cut answer to this confusion of mine. Right? So when I get clear-cut answer for this confusion of mine, then I'll be fine to do the action. So having said this, Arjuna became quiet. Says Sanjaya. So Sanjaya says, having said all this, having spoken all this, Arjuna became quiet. Then he is now saying, you speak. I will not fight. I will not do any action. I am now fully available to listen to your lecture, to listen to your advice, to listen to your piece of advice, knowledge. He says that in verse number 9. And then in 10 he says, Sanjaya says, to such a fellow who became available to gain the knowledge, Shri Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita. To him who was despondent, the midst of the two armies, between the two armies, who was completely stressed out, Rishikesha, Shri Krishna, smiling as it were. See, Arjuna is in a condition, he is completely collapsed, stressed, and Shri Krishna is smiling. What is that smile indicating? The smile is indicating few things. One is, Shri Krishna knows what exactly is the problem, he has got the solution. right? And he is also happy that he is now surrendered, so he can actually give him the solution which he will apply and come out of it. Isn't it? So he is smiling. See, it is stress because he is ignorant. But that is not stressful condition for Shri Krishna because he has got the knowledge. So he knows, I've got the knowledge, I've got the answer, I can give him. And it will work in his case because he is also asking for it, is available. And hence he spoke these words, O Bharata. So here O Bharata means Dhritarashtra. Sanjaya is telling Dhritarashtra, Shri Krishna, Hrishikesha spoke these words to Arjuna. What words? Bhagavad Gita, which starts from next shloka, which we will start from next week. So from next week onwards, we will do shloka after shloka. We will do 11, then 12, like that we will proceed. Okay? So let's conclude now. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Kayena Vacha Manasendriyairva Buddhyatmana va Prakrite Swabhavat Karomi Adhyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayanayeti Samarpayami. Hari Om. See you all next week.